Today we want to review plants. Plant cells are eukaryotic. They have a membrane-bound nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. Plants are multicellular. They're also autotrophic, which means they're able to make their own food. Plants can do photosynthesis. Plant cells contain chloroplast and a large central vacuole, and the plant cells are surrounded by a cell wall. Plants are divided into several main groups. The first group of plants to live on land was thought to be the non-vascular plants, or bryophytes. These plants lack a vascular system, which is a system of tubes that can carry water and nutrients through the plant. Non-vascular plants also lack a waxy cuticle. They lack leaves, true roots, seeds, pollen, flowers, and fruits. They're not very well adapted to life on land. They also must have standing water for their sperm to be able to swim to their eggs. Because they lack a vascular system, these plants must remain very small and are found only in damp, shaded places. The most common examples of non-vascular plants on Earth today are moss and liverworts. Green algae are also sometimes considered to be non-vascular plants. The next group of plants we'll mention are the vascular plants. Their big adaptation to life on land was the development of a vascular system for carrying water and minerals and also sugar. This allows these plants to become very tall. Vascular plants have also developed true roots, leaves, and stems. There are three main groups of vascular plants. The ferns were thought to have been the first type of vascular plants to have evolved on Earth. The ferns have a vascular system, true roots, true leaves, and true stems. They also have a waxy cuticle on their leaves, which protects them from losing water. They, however, do not have pollen, seeds, flowers, and fruits. Ferns are also still usually found in damp, dark places because they also require water for sexual reproduction. The next group of vascular plants we'll mention are the gymnosperms. The term gymnosperm means naked seed. These plants do not have fruits, and therefore their seeds are not surrounded by fruits. Gymnosperms are mostly cone-bearing plants. Examples include pine trees, cedar trees, and spruce trees. Sometimes the gymnosperms are referred to as conifers. They have several adaptations that enable them to thrive on land. These include true roots, which dig deep into the soil to find water, a waxy cuticle on the leaves, which protects them from water loss, an efficient vascular system consisting of xylem and phloem for the transportation of water and minerals. One of the big adaptations that gymnosperms have that ferns don't is pollen. Pollen allows for reproduction on land without standing water. Gymnosperms also have seeds. These protect the plant embryo from drying out on land. Even though they're very adapted for life on land, gymnosperms do not have flowers or fruits. Probably the most developed type of plants for life on land are angiosperms. These are the flowering plants. Most plants that you're familiar with would fall into this group. These plants have a cuticle for covering their leaves and protecting them from water loss, true roots, a vascular system. They also have seeds and pollen, but in addition, they've developed flowers, which help them to reproduce much more efficiently than the conifers, and they also have fruits, which help them to disperse their seeds away from the parent plant, and also to get them planted and fertilized. Cones are the reproductive organs of most gymnosperms. There are usually separate male and female cones on most conifers. Male cones make pollen, which is essentially gymnosperm sperm inside a protective waterproof coat. The pollen travels through the wind and lands on the female cone. This is not a very efficient process, and therefore gymnosperms must make huge amounts of pollen to ensure that reproduction happens. The pollen grain eventually lands on a female cone and sprouts a pollen tube that leads to the ovule. The sperms swim down the tube and fertilize the egg. The fertilized egg becomes a seed, which eventually will leave the cone once the cone opens up and is dispersed from the parent through the wind. Gymnosperms do not develop fruits or flowers. Flowers are the reproductive structures of angiosperms. Plants carry out sexual reproduction. Most flowers are hermaphroditic, which means they contain both sex organs. The male structures are called stamen. The ball-like structure on top of the stamen is called the anther. The anther produces pollen. The stalk-like structure that holds the anther up in the air is called the filament. The female structure is referred to as either the pistil or the carpel. The carpel is divided into three sections. The stigma is the top sticky portion that collects the pollen. The style is the neck-like structure that holds the stigma up in the air, and the ovary is the bottom portion that contains the ovules or the eggs. In most angiosperms, pollination happens with the help of insects. This is a much more efficient way to transfer pollen than through the wind, and therefore angiosperms make much less pollen than do gymnosperms. Once the pollen lands on the stigma, a pollen tube forms, and it sprouts its way down the style. The sperms swim down the pollen tube and fertilize the ovule and the ovary of the carpel. The fertilized egg becomes a seed. The tissues around the fertilized egg develop into a fruit. Photosynthesis is the process of converting the energy of sunlight to chemical energy in the form of either sugar or glucose. Plants, algae, and some bacteria can carry out the process of photosynthesis. Chlorophyll is the green pigment which acts like a solar panel and captures the light energy for the plants. In eukaryotic plants, photosynthesis happens in the organelle known as the chloroplast. Organisms that are capable of doing photosynthesis are often referred to as either autotrophs or producers. Organisms that depend on these autotrophs for food are called heterotrophs. Heterotrophs must eat. One thing that you must know for the graduation exam is the balanced equation for photosynthesis. First, you need to know the things on the left side of the equation. These are known as the reactants. The reactants for photosynthesis are carbon dioxide, water, and light energy from the sun. Plants acquire the carbon dioxide from the air and the water from the roots, and of course the light they capture with the chlorophyll in their leaves. The things on the right side of the equation are known as the products. The two products of photosynthesis are glucose or sugar, which is C6H12O6. This chemical is basically responsible for all of the food on Earth in one way or other, and also 6 molecules of oxygen gas. This is the oxygen that we breathe. Aerobic cellular respiration is the process in which energy from food is used to make ATP, the body's fuel. Most of the process happens in the mitochondria. All organisms carry out some type of cellular respiration and use ATP as fuel. Aerobic means that the process requires oxygen. One of the things you must know for the graduation exam is the balanced equation for cellular respiration. The reactants for the process are glucose or food, that's C6H12O6, plus 6 molecules of oxygen gas, which we get from the air. The products of the process, first of all, are ATP. That's our energy. Waste products of the process are 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water vapor, or water. Photosynthesis and cellular respiration are closely related. The two processes work together as a cycle. The products of photosynthesis serve as the reactants for cellular respiration, while the products of cellular respiration are the reactants for photosynthesis. One of the processes can't happen without the other. These two processes are a major component of the carbon cycle.